Well, I have gained insights around the value of the retrospective and the sequence of implementing various best practices from Agile. And that it's a very customized thing depending on the needs of the team, where they're at, and what their product is currently doing, and customer demands, all these things. There's so many variables and factors that affect that. Gosh, yeah, so many things. Very surprised that there are so many teams that are remote. And not just remote within the United States, as some of my teams are, but remote and offshore in a very different time zone. And that teams and companies respond to that differently. Also surprised at how pervasive facilitation skills are to leveraging the collaborative power of teams. So I see it as it is a collaborative space, and it's a lot of people who have already been practicing, while at the same time there's people who are brand new. So they come in with very little bias, and they're learning it for the first time, and they're having aha moments in front of you that trigger new thoughts, help you kind of renew your lens that you look at Agile through and that you look at your teams through. And so there's a kind of renewal, and there's a stimulus that I think instigates thought and discovery and returns me to, I think, my roots in terms of reading, talking with people, going back to other gatherings of people that are in Agile and asking new questions, or maybe questions that I forgot to keep looking for answers. I think really Agile is going to continue to morph and evolve, and its adoption in larger organizations and a broader array of types of organizations is what's coming up. And it may be called different things. It might be, I hope actually, that it becomes a movement that's focused on customer value or client value, user value, rather than focus so much on the best practices and what labels they go by. And when it does that, I hope that it doesn't lose its identity. In other words, let's call it something different. Let's focus on value, because that's the end that it was meant to serve. It's only a means. And let's keep pushing it forward, because what it's really about is continuous improvement. And that's I think, probably the biggest discovery, the biggest takeaway for me is really understanding what continuous improvement looks like, feels like, and how to recognize it when you found it, and to not trivialize it. It's not a check item on some sort of list that you need to do. It's a survival technique for a company in a competitive market. And so it's the lifeblood of the ongoing concern. Continuous improvement, yes, absolutely. It's got to mean something in terms of value to the customer. It's great that, Agile has many positive externalities, side benefits for the team members, and that's a great thing, for organizations to retain their employees and team members. But it's not just for the team, it's also for the customer, the stakeholders of projects and operations. And so making sure that that's where the main emphasis is, and sure, enjoy all the other benefits that come from it as a positive externality, just a really fortuitous side effect. I could be overgeneralizing my own case to a lot of others, and I suppose it's really forums like this where I can see if I'm sort of living in a bubble or thinking in a vacuum, and try and validate whether my experience is common or not. But I do believe there is a danger or a risk of compartmentalizing continuous improvement into such a small box that it's more an afterthought, or it's the tail of the dog, and it's not wagging the dog. The dog sometimes thinks to wag its tail. And so I think that continuous improvement should be the main thrust. It should be the dog. And the processes and all that, well, they're nice tales to have every once in a while. I think they should, because project managers are a sort of meta role, I think, inside of Agile. In other words, while it's true that in many implementations of Agile, the project manager's traditional tasks may not be covered by, say, the PO, the product owner, or may not be covered by the team member or the Scrum Master. But in a perfect world, you would see, I think, that project managers' responsibilities melted into those activities that fit into the Agile model. Again, it's just a question of labels, I suppose, but Agile handles projects really, really well, and project managers just want the same outcome that any PO, Scrum Master, and team member want, which is delivering the maximum value to customers as early as possible with minimum risk and cost. And so if we can focus on that, then it's relevant that nobody needs to declare victory or defeat. We just need to keep using continuous improvement to attain those objectives that I've stated. Yeah. Absolutely, and it doesn't matter who had the best idea from which role at what time. It really matters that those good ideas get adopted, or at least that they get experimented with, and the good ones retained, the not as good ones may be discarded or delayed, and that there's an environment conducive to change, evolution, continuous improvement, and consistent delivery, early delivery of the value to the customer. That's all. For an ongoing concern, a for-profit ongoing concern, that is our reason for existence. If I was going to make some comment to folks who are considering maybe attending an Agile Open, maybe not, you know, you don't know what you're missing until you're there. And the beauty of an open space is everybody's free to walk in and walk out at any time. So I would say, take a look, see if there's something here for you. And the beauty of, again, the open space is, if you don't hear it coming up, open a session, ask your questions, see if the rest of the group has some answers, or maybe some questions to give back to you to find your answer.